Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. USC on the road playing Nebraska. This matchup, it fires me up. And I think the biggest storyline heading into this matchup, what version of USC do you get? Because I think a lot of USC fans have recognized this trend where you look at USC when they're playing at home, most notably that Michigan game. USC looks like a team that can contend for a college football playoff berth. But when they've gone on the road against Notre Dame, on the road against Illinois, it just hasn't been the same version that we're used to seeing. This game feels big for Lincoln Riley and USC. If anything, Lincoln Riley needs to show to the USC fans that he can have this team go on the road into a very hostile environment and go win some in-conference games. It feels really big for Lincoln Riley and USC, and quite frankly, it feels really big for Nebraska as well. Fired up to get into this one. A lot of really fun matchups at play. Before we get into it, as always, to the USC fans, to the Nebraska fans, hey, most notably here, these are two fan bases that have shown a ton of support to the boys over the years. We have not been doing this very long, but these two fan bases have largely been with the boys since the jump. So we appreciate you guys. Most importantly, let it fly in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, where to start? I want to start with this USC offense. And I'll say this, that there are not many, if any, offenses that I trust more than what USC is trotting out there. And it's fundamentally different than previous USC offenses. We're used to seeing USC put up a lot of points. This year, it feels different because they're two-dimensional. They're willing and able to lean on the ground game in this kind of game on the road at night against Nebraska. Having a ground game that you can lean on, it makes USC feel a little bit different in this kind of football game. Because I'm looking at it and saying, hey, we're scoring 42.5 points per game. That's number 2 in the country. 7.8 yards per play. That's number 1 in the country. But here's the kicker, 5.9 yards per carry. That's 6th best in the country. 10 yards per pass attempt. That is 3rd best in the country. USC can get it done doing it both ways. And then you look at this matchup against Nebraska and say, well, what's the biggest storyline? What's the biggest question mark that we have about this Nebraska defense? It's their ability to stop the run. And I don't think I'm breaking any news to the Nebraska fans. This defensive line is probably just not good enough from a personnel standpoint dealing with elite rushing attacks. Well, I'm looking at USC and saying I don't think many people had it on their bingo card, but this USC rushing attack, it can get the job done. The big storyline with the USC ground game is you're down your 2 top running backs. Most notably Wayman Jordan, who I think asserted himself before the injury as one of the best backs in this conference. Can USC go on the road with King Miller, who is a walk-on redshirt freshman, shoulder in the low? Can USC go on the road and run the football effectively against the Nebraska defense that's given up 5.1 yards per carry? That's 115th in the country. The other storyline here, at least in my opinion, when it relates to the run game, do you get Elijah Page back at left tackle? That's big. I mean, Elijah Page is the best offensive lineman that USC has, and he moves bodies in the run game. USC running the football, they're better off when Elijah Page is on the football field. Do you get Elijah Page back in this football game? That's another storyline when it comes to seeing USC run the ball. The other storyline for me is if USC does have success running the football, we've seen Nebraska say, hey, we're just going to allocate bodies to the box. We are going to take a safety, stick them in the box, and try to beat you with numbers when you try to run the football. I think Nebraska's gotten away with it a decent amount because they haven't seen elite passing attacks. And look, this Nebraska secondary is really good at 57% completion percentage given up. That's 17th in the country. They're only giving up 5.1 yards per pass attempt. That is 3rd best in the country. This is a secondary that has been really good, that is graded out very well, with the conversation being we have not seen this Nebraska secondary go up against a passing attack that includes a quarterback that is playing at an elite level in Jaden and 2 very, very good wide receivers in Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. if USC has success running the football and Nebraska tries to bring a safety into the box to deal with that rushing attack, can Nebraska win one-on-one matchups on the outside against some of the best wide receivers in the sport? I'm just not sure we know because we haven't seen Nebraska go up against these kind of wide receivers and these kind of quarterbacks yet. How do you deal with Mekhi Lemon? And the other storyline, because you look at some of the struggles that USC had in the second half, it was Notre Dame did a really good job taking away Mekhi Lemon. Now, Notre Dame had the ability to do that job because they had a really good cornerback in Leonard Moore. Can Nebraska deal with Mekhi Lemon and the amount of different ways USC can get him involved in offense? It's going to be a really fun matchup because the USC fans, y'all are going to recognize this name, Sayer Wright, who transferred from USC to Nebraska, playing a lot of nickel corner for Nebraska. You're probably going to see a lot of Mekhi Lemon versus Sayer Wright. Who wins that matchup is a big deal. Like, when USC gets Mekhi Lemon going, there's not many, if any, wide receivers that are harder to stop in the country. Last thing that I'll say is, hey, can Nebraska, which has had their pass rush pick up a little bit over the last couple of weeks, can you find a way to impact Jaden? When Jaden is kept clean, man, 77.5% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns to 1 interception. When Jaden has a clean pocket to work from, and credit USC's offensive line because they have held up very well, even though they're dealing with some injuries. Jaden been very, very sharp when you can get pressure on him, of which Notre Dame was able to a little bit. That completion percentage drops to 40%, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Does Nebraska have the dogs? Does the Nebraska have the dudes to get after Jaden with their front four? Because when you want to blitz Jaden, you're playing with fire. Actually, Jaden's been pretty good against blitz packages because he's got wide receivers that can win one-on-one matchups. Can Nebraska affect Jaden with the front four? Look, 6 weeks ago, I would have said maybe, especially with USC on the road. I got a little bit more confidence because I've seen USC's offensive line respond pretty damn well to some significant injuries that they've had to deal with. Flipping the sides here. Nebraska offense versus USC defense that, again, man, it's been fits and starts, right? They had a really good performance against Michigan, not very good against Illinois and Notre Dame. What version of this USC defense are we going to get? And I think it's extremely critical for Nebraska to try to run the football. Hey, when has USC's defense really, really struggled? They have struggled against teams that can consistently stay on schedule and run the football. Both Notre Dame and Illinois. USC is at their best when they get you behind the chains, when they get you into those obvious passing situations, because look, there are flaws with this USC defense. I ain't breaking any news. They're really good at getting after the passer. Multiple guys that will be in the NFL. Then you look at Nebraska and say, what's Nebraska's kryptonite? What has held back this offense in meaningful ways when they have seen really good pass rushers, specifically out on the edge? It's been bad. I mean, Dillon's taken a sack on 10.5% of dropbacks. That is 128th in the country. Nebraska's trying. They're mixing up their tackles, throwing different tackles out there. Nebraska does not trust their offensive tackles. I think I feel very comfortable saying that. What's the best way to take some pressure off your offensive line and your offensive tackles and pass protection? Run the football. Stay on schedule. Stay out of those third and obvious passing situations where USC gets a chance to really pin their ears back. Now, here's the good thing for Nebraska is USC has struggled against the run in previous weeks. And I think Nebraska's run game is quietly coming on. I mean, Emmett Johnson has asserted himself, in my opinion, one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. Can Nebraska stay on schedule and move the football and avoid those obvious passing situations? To me, that's where that's number one, the most important storyline. Number two here, and this is another matchup that I think favors Nebraska. USC is going to give you some easy stuff underneath. You look at USC's secondary and say they're giving up nearly a 68% completion percentage, right? Nebraska, very high completion percentage, 73%. That's top 3 in the country. And Nebraska's been really, really good with the quick game, getting their football to their playmakers in space and having their playmakers do the rest. That's where USC has struggled, right? USC has given up over 880 yards after the catch. Nebraska has gained over 1,200 yards after the catch so far in 2025. Can these USC defensive backs tackle guys like Ja'Cory Barney in space? Massive storyline in this one. Here's the other wrinkle. USC has, over the last couple of weeks, played with a lot of 3 linebacker sets, which is good against the run. Like, you want 3. If you're going to pull a defensive back off the field at a linebacker, that's going to help you against the run. What it's not going to help you with is speed and space. Can Nebraska attack that? Does USC 1 come out there with 3 linebacker sets? And if they do, can Nebraska get the football to a guy like Ja'Cory Barney, who is electric in space, and have him do the rest? Really fun matchups. I think it depends on what team can get after the matchups that favor them. Getting into the pick, USC on the road here, 6.5-point favorites. I'm going to take USC to win this football game. And I'm going to take USC to win this football game because I trust this offense to score. I think they'll have some success running the football. And if Nebraska wants to bring a safety into the box, I just don't trust Nebraska's defensive backs to make it happen against Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. And I know they've been really, really good. I just don't think they've been tested against these kind of wide receivers that USC has. So I trust USC to score. And I don't know if I trust Nebraska to stick to the run game. And I certainly don't trust Nebraska to hold up in pass protection. That is one thing. USC has not done a ton of great things on defense, right? The defense has struggled. They've been good. They've been really good getting after the passer. And I'm looking at a Nebraska offensive line that when they've seen really good pass rushes, team like Michigan, they've struggled in big time ways. I trust you. I think it's a unique matchup that favors USC in a couple of different ways. That's why I'm going to take USC, with the big caveat being, hey, what version of USC do we get? Because I am breaking any news to the USC fans. This team has not been very trustworthy when they've gone on the road. Going to be a colder game, Saturday night, loud environment. How does USC handle all those things? That's a fair question if you're a USC fan asking it. I'm going to take USC because I think there are some matchups they can get after. Going to be a really fun one. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.